Hello and welcome to the big picture. After days of suspense about the talks between the foreign secretaries of India and Pakistan, finally it was put off yesterday to a later date. The postponement of the talks, not cancellation, has raised certain questions about the future of the talks. The series of information, some confirmed, some unconfirmed, emanating from Pakistan for the last few days about the action being taken by its security forces and statements of its top leaders, including from the Pakistan PM's office, all indicated their eagerness to keep the talks going. However, now that both countries have agreed to postpone the talks, the question is, why was it postponed? What will it take for the talks to resume now? How should the actions being taken by Pakistan, including taking into preventive custody of members of Jaish-e-Mohammed, including apparently its leader Masood Azhar, setting up a special investigative team, be viewed? We will discuss all this today with G. Parthasarathy, former ambassador, Rana Banerjee, former special secretary RAW, Ashok Tandon, senior journalist, and on the phone line from Islamabad is Imtiaz, senior journalist and political analyst. Welcome to all of you. Mr. Parthasarathy, was the postponement of the talks inevitable?
I think it wasn't the best thing to happen, because it's good to have the atmosphere cleared and a sort of feeling of cooperation set up before we went into those talks. And I think certain things are to be welcomed. The readiness of Pakistan to acknowledge Jaish was involved, to take some preemptive action, to set up a negotiating team. So necessarily that would have to be reciprocated. Quite obviously, we would like to tie up the details of how this will go, and then the foreign secretaries could meet, because foreign secretaries were meeting merely to set an agenda. But I do feel that if you want to give teeth to this process, then it would be good if the national security advisors met, and preferably they
before the foreign secretary?
Yes, and preferably they went with the combination which existed in Thailand, which the NSA was accompanied by the foreign secretary. And also I believe that such talks are best kept outside the public domain without a huge glare of publicity.
So you're quite happy that the talks were postponed, and you think that it was necessary to be postponed?
Yes, I do believe that it was necessary, because we should be very clear that we are going into a parliament session, that you don't go in to be seen to be rushing into something. It's a carefully considered decision, and I think
you think it's carefully considered. Mr. Banerjee, do you think it's carefully considered, and why was it kept hanging till the last minute before it was decided?
No, it's very clear that we would like to be given certain joy about what sort of measures they are taking to rein in those
joy.
Who are yes, about those who were involved, and how they would be reining in those elements. There is an air of tentativeness about what the authorities have done there. Firstly, the political leadership in Pakistan would be quite happy to leave these things to the army. The army has to, worry about the reactions that may set in, both on the legal front as also on the ground, law and order front in Punjab.
No, you mean the government there, the civilian
Yes.
government would leave it to the army, and they are not bothered about the outcome of this?
But they couldn't be too much concerned as long as the army is left to pick their chestnuts out of the fire. And the army has to be concerned about, what sort of legal, guidance or cover the leaders of Jaish can get, so that they can get out of the arm of law. And secondly, they are also worried about what sort of crackdown and what would be the repercussions of such a crackdown on forces of the establishment, because in the past they have suffered.
Mr. Imtiaz, how do you say this? Is this in Pakistan? Is it the same kind of feeling that it is better that the talks have been postponed at this point of time?
Well, I would say, this makes all the more sense. Once a new variable has upset the potential talks, it makes sense that the incident, the Pathankot Air Base incident, first be probed, and both governments have apparently agreed on the special investigation team coming over from Pakistan. So I think under the current circumstances, this was the best option, and I think the good omen in this is that both governments agreed mutually to defer their talks till the air is cleared through this special investigation, because once the talks start and at the same time the investigation is going on, I don't think it's an easy task for foreign secretary, for the government officials to come up with something substantive, and particularly when accusations, allegations are flying back and forth.
That is interesting what you are saying. So, Ashok, what is your, you agree with him that as long as the investigation is going on, there is no point in having these kind of talks?
No, see, before that, I would like to make a comment. See, whenever we talk, we discuss about the talks, it's a composite dialogue. And the
Supposed to be a comprehensive.
Yeah, but composite dialogue also includes this topic of terrorism.
Right.
So which sometime we forget when we say we are going to talk with Pakistan as if we are going to concede something. No, the talks will also provide India an opportunity to discuss terrorism with Pakistan. Now, having said that, now maybe his view is correct that while investigations are on, there should not be talk. But I would like to emphasize that we are trying to mobilize global opinion against terrorism emanating from Pakistani soil. So obviously there is going to be diplomatic pressure on Pakistan to act. So therefore, I think giving time for talks to be postponed will also help India to exert diplomatic pressure on Pakistan to act and act decisively. The third thing I agree with Partha is that whenever any dialogue takes place, no, it should not be so publicized and made a media event. So unfortunately what happens is the media in both the countries, they want any process with Pakistan, especially the dialogue process, should be something which should be totally transparent and on camera, which is not the right course. I think let diplomacy take its own shape, and it should not be with the media glare. So I hope whenever and at whatever level the talks do take place, they are given space to negotiate rather than play to the gallery. So what happens is,
as a media man, you're being very over optimistic. I'm sure.
I agree, but unfortunately, what happens is that the media plays to the gallery, and diplomacy is a very sensitive thing. And let's leave it to
the problem is that there is a feeling that the diplomacy is also playing to the gallery in this case.
No, because if everything is happening in front of the media, and then obviously everybody will play to the gallery.
Mr. Partha, you think that there is a lot of playing to the gallery? There is a lot of playing to the gallery.
Ashok, when he was with Mr. Vajpayee,
right,
would remember that after the attack on Parliament, there was a secret back channel between Brajesh Mishra and President Musharraf's representative, who continued for quite some time. And it was there, in those channels, in that dialogue, beyond the pale of publicity, that two things got agreed to. The August 2003 ceasefire, and then the assurance by President Musharraf, given personally at a SAARC summit, to Mr. Vajpayee that territory under Pakistan's control would not be used for terrorism. Now that created an atmosphere for talks, even including on Jammu and Kashmir. And even those were behind publicity. So yes, when foreign secretaries meet, foreign ministers meet, or heads of government meet, necessarily there is going to be publicity. But the serious business of diplomacy, I, for example, would favor Rana's raw having direct talks with the ISI. We have not yet had the DGMO talk.
We don't know whether that's happening.
No, well, it could, it couldn't, but it has happened in the past. I think the DGMO should meet. We agreed to that in UFA. I don't see, unless you have this wide range of contacts outside the public domain, which sets the tone and background for diplomacy.
That is fine. But what has happened so far? Now, as far as the cancellation or postponement of the talks is concerned, it was till the last minute. Why do you think it was being kept hanging? Last minute, this announcement was. Why do you think that happened?
Because it is a serious matter. After all, when the Prime Ministers met and decided on this date, it was sacrosanct at that point in time. It had to be changed once the attack on Pathankot took place.
The attack on Pathankot took place 10 days back, and why did it take such a long time?
Do you think diplomacy is overnight? It's going to take time. There are also consultations, not just with Pakistan. There are considerations on how the world reacts. And we found what Obama said in the State of the Union address added to the force of what we had been saying. The same thing is true with regard to China, which I was rather surprised at the Chinese statement. So I think, let us be clear, diplomacy is not just simple that the foreign secretary goes, has a cup of tea and discusses these things. There has to be meticulous preparation. There have to be a clear understanding.
There was no
in the global
meticulous preparation. Are you saying?
I would have been quite. Let's not forget also that this attack took place along with the attack on our consulate, which asked for the release of Afzal Guru. Now, who was concerned with Afzal Guru? The Lashkar, the Jaish-e-Mohammed, because the Jaish-e-Mohammed was responsible for the attack on the Indian Parliament.
Correct.
That has been acknowledged by General Javed Ashraf Qazi in the Pakistani Parliament. So, therefore, there is a nexus between these two things. And both asked for the release of Afzal Guru. Who was Afzal Guru? The collaborator for that attack.
No, that's fine. But the question now is that Pakistan is saying that we are taking action against Jaish-e-Mohammed.
Yes.
So how should India view that?
I think let us see what is happening on the ground in Pakistan. Let us see what is the joint action team wants when they come here. We would welcome them. We'll give them whatever we can. We naturally can't be allowing them into the heart of the Pathankot Air Force Base where they strike aircraft opposition. But certainly we'll have to work out all those modalities with them, and then don't later on create a situation where Pakistan says we did not get full cooperation.
Mr. Banerjee, how do you look at this? Allowing a special investigation team of Pakistan to come into India and go. They would like to go to Pathankot and see what happened.
No,
there.
access for them for the SIT can be clearly organized so that they visit the sites that the...
No, this is a sightseeing visit.
Well, not really that way, but they can see the sites where the terrorists came in and all that, how they were neutralized. Whatever evidence is there can be shared with them, DNA, etc., the proof about the dead bodies. If they want to take over the dead bodies, that is something...
And what is on the global positioning systems, which gives us a very clear idea where they came from.
That also. But the whole issue will hinge on what sort of action and they are taking, the substance of the action that they are already taking against those that have been rounded up. On that, we should have clear information.
No, because there is last couple of days, there has been a lot of confusion about who has been taken into custody, what kind of custody it is, how serious it is.
Today the Punjab Minister, Rana has acknowledged that Masood Azhar is under some sort of interrogation.
No, but that is
protective custody. That's the word used.
What they have a provision which does not amount. It is custodial interrogation. It does not amount to arrest or detention.
Yeah, but they will still have to produce the person.
Is that something which should satisfy India?
Not at the stage of custodial.
Is that something which should satisfy India?
No, it shouldn't. It shouldn't.
That's why we are waiting for more.
Sir.
It shouldn't satisfy. And we will have to see, I mean, as I put it right in the beginning, it's an opportunity for the army if they want to really go and dismantle the apparatus of the Jaish. But if they are afraid or if they are tentative in their actions, then we will not be satisfied.
No, we have seen the kind of response of Masood Azhar himself, to this kind of apparent actions being taken there.
No, his followers will continue to be, have resort to bravado and, say that they remain committed despite the action of the establishment. But the fact is, if the army really puts its act together, then they can easily restrain and curtail, the activities of this setup.
Mr. Imtiaz Gul, how serious is the action being taken against this Jaish-e-Mohammed in Pakistan? Mr. Gul, can you hear me? Mr. Gul, can you hear me? Okay, I think we'll try to get him back. Ashok? So, when we are talking of decisive action, we are all talking of decisive action. The NSA as is quoted as having said until there is decisive action, we will not resume the talks. What is the decisive action? Are we clear what the decisive action has to be?
No, see, it's not that we are clear about it or not. The action has to be visible on the ground.
What
and
action?
not only...
Question is what is that action?
Not only India. Today, the international community is also watching it. Terrorism has become a global issue. It's like as Partha was saying, the President Obama's comment that Pakistan may become a safe haven for terrorist organizations. No, that means the whole world is watching Pakistan to act in respect of the attack in India. So therefore, whatever action on the ground is, it will be quite visible and known to the entire world. And it is only after everybody feels satisfied that yes, the action is really decisive and it is not just a cosmetic thing, then of course India will comment and say it's time for resumption of dialogue or not. But in between, I also agree that let the NSAs meet, because when NSAs meet, then the only issue to be discussed would be terrorism and attack on India, not on anything else.
NSAs meet, but the problem is that the NSAs have taken, the Indian NSA has taken a stand and there can't be any more talks unless there is decisive action.
No, I don't
Mr.
think.
Parthasarathy.
I don't think the Indian NSA has said that.
No,
he's
he
not
has
going-
said exactly. This is
No, no,
the, this is the quote.
that
let there be, there has to be decisive action
yes,
before
but
talks can be
that is
resumed.
with regard to the dialogue process. His talks with General Janjua will continue.
Should not come in the way.
No,
This should not come in the way. That's what you
No,
mean.
no, it will not. I am confident it will not.
No,
that
because
will take
the
place.
NSC level dialogue would focus and concentrate on terrorism being sponsored from Pakistan. So not that they will
How are
discuss...
we sure about that?
No, because NSAs they can't talk about other issues.
Let me put it this way. Nothing prevents the NSAs from talking beyond. We should have no objection if they want to discuss everything under the sun. But the meeting would be taking place in the context of the Pathankot attack. So it is clear what
Okay,
it will be.
Mr. Parthasarathy, let me get Mr. Gul in on this. Mr. Gul, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm again back on.
Okay. Mr. Gul, the question which I was asking earlier was that, you know, these actions which we are hearing about in Pakistan against Jaish-e-Mohammed, how serious are they according to you? Because there is still a lot of skepticism in India and, you know, there's kind of wait and watch approach because we are not sure whether these actions being taken is serious at all or not.
Well, is it the media that is not sure, or is it the government that is not sure about
Both.
the
The
steps
government
being taken
also
in
is not very.
Pakistan against all these?
It's both.
Yeah. So if you could let me complete kindly.
Yeah.
The issue is the world somehow has to understand that Pakistan is dealing with an extremely complicated, very difficult situation. A page has been turned. I think there are certain actions being taken. Those actions should act as a big deterrent, number one. And number two, they also, I think, underline a paradigm shift. It may not be big for the Indians or for other outsiders, but we personally living here believe that this is what Pakistanis had been wanting for quite some time. And I think that change is somehow now visible. You can discern that through these actions. If, however, an all-out war is declared against these people, then Pakistan itself will be in deep trouble. There are socio-political dimensions, complications in the entire process. So I guess, you know, we should have a little bit of patience and understanding for the way Pakistan is dealing with this situation, and the understanding that sending the investigation team to investigate the Pathankot incident, I think is a big step forward in the bilateral relationship. This also underscores that there is realization in Pakistan that we need to demonstrate through practical steps our commitment, Pakistan's commitment to counter-terrorism. And I think there's quite a bit of clarity on this issue that only through concrete actions should Pakistan be able to convince the rest of the world that it is serious in its counter-terror war.
Okay. So when do you think that the talks can be resumed under these circumstances?
Well, you know, I'm not speaking for the government. One would just hope, as I think Mr. Parthasarathy was suggesting, that there is no harm for the two national security advisors to resume or continue talking away from the glaze of the media, because in the past, I think media has, I think, to a great extent, complicated things for both countries. And the best thing would be what happened during the President Musharraf's era, that Tariq Aziz and S.K. Lamba, I think, had been discussing behind the scenes. Not many people would know about it. So this is the kind of diplomacy I think that they should indulge in, and this is what could hopefully bring take the bilateral relationship to a new tangent.
Okay. Thanks for joining us. I'm told that you want to leave. Mr. Gul, thanks for joining us. Mr. Banerjee, would you agree with him that there is a paradigm shift? We had a guest from Pakistan the other day also, who is also talking of a paradigm shift, which we don't seem to be agreeing to.
I am still skeptical to accept whether there is really a paradigm shift. I would agree with him that there is a growing civil society perception that this crackdown, which has been selectively done by the military leadership so far, leaving out those actors who have been hostile to India. But still there has been this crackdown which has been welcomed by civil society in Pakistan. But it has been very selective. For example, it has been confined to Karachi and to the FATA. It hasn't extended to Punjab.
No, but do you agree with what Mr. Gul is saying, that there is some kind of a shift in the way the whole thing is approached from the past experiences which we have had with Pakistan?
Yes, there is a shift. More than that, I would agree with what he has flagged, that it is a complex problem even for the military, which I also mentioned in the beginning, that the extent to which they can crack down with facility on these state actors which are deeply embedded in Punjabi society particularly, and the type of Islamic radicalism that they have spread and penetrated into various sectors of the establishment, including within the army. That is something that will constrain their actions, and they will be proceeding very warily. So we will have to assess carefully the sincerity of such actions.
Mr. Parthasarathy?
Yeah,
how much can we, is India willing to take what Mr. Gul says, we have to take into consideration their problems.
I am a great believer in what President Ronald Reagan said when he was asked whether he trusted Gorbachev as he was moving ahead. His answer was, I believe in trust but verify. And therefore, diplomacy would involve trust and verification, because I personally believe that the political leadership under Mr. Nawaz Sharif have reached a conclusion that enough is enough for the moment.
So
I think
believe that?
I think, oh yes. The other thing which
what about the army's role in this?
I have serious doubts about the military.
That is exactly what Mr. Gul is saying.
Yes.
When they talk of paradigm shift, they are talking of that the military is all on board as far as what is happening.
If that was the case, then you wouldn't have
Mazar-e-Sharif.
Urdu-speaking Pakistanis attacking our consulate in Mazar-e-Sharif. So I think this is why I say trust but verify. And the Afghans are very clear they were Afghans, they were Urdu-speaking people. So let us wait and see, and that too asking for Afzal Guru revenge. So, let's be very clear. So I think the fact is, in diplomacy, you cannot shun an opportunity you get, but be careful of how you go about it. And let's not get into this hype about, there is a paradigm shift and all that. When that shift occurs, we should acknowledge it. I will not acknowledge it.
You are not going to acknowledge it now?
Yet, no.
Mr. Ashok, would you acknowledge that there is a shift?
See,
some kind of a shift. Let us not use bombastic words like paradigm.
But I have a feeling that after the Paris attack and now attack on Jakarta, there is a global feeling across the world. So maybe the military establishment in Pakistan may be feeling the heat. And therefore, under the global pressure, because the war against terrorism is mounting, and it can't be seen in isolation, attack on India, Pathankot. So if the terrorism issue is viewed in totality, obviously Pakistan will come under pressure. And therefore, when the whole world is watching Pakistan, so they will have to act. And therefore, if the military establishment also feels the heat, maybe in days to come, we may see some shift in the approach of the military, which has not been visible so far.
Banerjee?
No, I think after the Army School Peshawar attack last year in December 14, there has been a realization that they should not, allow such elements.
After seeing those children being...
children belonging to, mainly army families.
Yes.
So that really shocked them. And after that, they have this national action plan. But very many facets of the plan have been very weakly implemented, particularly those that involve civilian administrative action. So the army, of course, has been making very bold statements, like Mr. Rahil Sharif, General Rahil Sharif this time in his New Year message to the troops said that 2016 would be the last year of terrorism. Also, the Corps commanders...
That's a very
it's
brave
a major
statement. It's a very brave statement to me.
Yes, and in the first Corps commanders conference afterwards, he reiterated this intention. But as I said, in implementation, their actions have been still diffident and selective.
Mr. Parthasarathy, what next?
What next? I think there are intense diplomatic contacts on. The NSAs are in touch. Let us see how they put this team together. Let us see how they are investigating there. Let us get their thing. In the meantime, as I said, we could always be, as I said, we should be prepared for the NSAs to meet, and when NSAs meet, they can discuss everything under the sun and the moon. So yeah, it's.
Mr. Banerjee?
Well, if media reports are to be believed, they have already met again a second time after Bangkok in Paris yesterday or day before.
It's been denied by both sides now.
Well, that would be
It's
in
okay,
the form rather than, but, the track 2, if at all, if it progresses at that level, I think it's best that there is some progress and exchange of, confidences that helps in building up trust. If that happens, well and good.
So you think that there has been no mishaps as far as what has happened so far?
We should remain prepared for mishaps down the line. We have the Republic Day, high security situation coming up. So we should not be complacent. Our, homeland security defenses should remain on high alert during this period, because there is no knowing the spoiler elements from across the border. They may not let up, and they may not be very happy with this situation of temporary deferment even of the scheduled foreign secretary level
More
talks.
importantly, this established several gaps in defenses between Pathankot and Gurdaspur. Let's get that right.
We should get that right for our own.
Yeah.
Ashok, very quickly, what next according to you?
I think the government is under tremendous pressure of the public opinion. So therefore, rushing for dialogue, even now, as the report says that very shortly there may be resumption, I think it may take some time.
It may take some time. Okay. I think on that note, we need to end. It will take some time, obviously, because what is decisive action, how it should come about, what is it that Pakistan will have to do to convince India that they are being serious are all questions which are still not answered, and we'll have to wait for answers for quite some time. We'll keep waiting and watching what happens. Thanks to all my guests. Please keep watching. We'll come back with another issue, the big picture, same time on Monday. Meanwhile, have a great weekend.